Jeff, let's fucking go. Let's go. Let's go. Let's fucking go. Let's fucking go, Jeff.
Yeah, buddy.
Let's fucking go.
Mm-hmm.
This is what this team needed. This is what this team needed. We have been bitching about this team for 10 straight years with their offensive line moves. And you know what? Today's the day. They made a phenomenal move to address the guard position today. And we won't just talk about Gabe Jackson. We'll talk a little bit about Gerald Everett, which is also another really good move today. But let's fucking go, dude. Let's fucking go. This guy is not a superstar, but he is, I think, the definition of a dependable, solid starting guard. I think I was looking at some stats, and I'll let you jump in here in a second, Jeff, but I got to get my little
You're killing it right now.
hype train finish for a second. This dude has missed only 3 or more games once in his, I think it's 7, 8, or 8, 9 years he's been in the NFL since 2014. I can't do math. I'm so excited right now. So he's an extremely durable player. I think you even made this comment in the group chat. Up until last year, he had been one of the best, I think one of the better guards in the NFL. God, this is interesting because my understanding is he has currently most recently been playing right guard. So if he's going to slot into the right guard position, does Seattle move Damian Lewis over to the left side to work with Dwayne Brown? That's an interesting sort of scenario, which is not a bad thing in my opinion. I'm excited about that possibility. But man, we were just on this show like 2 days ago bitching about this dumbass football team, and now here they are. You know what? Credit to John Schneider and Pete Carroll. They made us uncomfortable the last 2 days, and you know what? They still have areas to address. So it's not all perfect, sunshine and rainbows yet. But today's moves, yesterday's moves, God, this looks good. They're doing good things. These are smart football moves. I'm excited about smart football moves. This feels good. I feel good. The Seahawks are making me feel good, Jeff.
It's funny because
it doesn't feel real.
5 hours ago, I was in a dark place. I know some people in our chat were in a dark place because the Rodney Hudson trade happened, and you looked at the names at guard, and it was ugly. Like Gabe Jackson hadn't been cut yet. If they didn't get him, it looked dead. And like there were people in our chat who are super positive all the time. They were in a dark place.
I wonder who those people could be. I wonder.
Yeah. So let me take a step back for a second, though. Today was a huge day on a number of fronts. Like we're going to dive into Gabe Jackson a ton. But the whole Russell Wilson story that opened off today, that like John Schneider was thinking about trading him, and then Pete said no, and that eliminates the Russell Wilson trade. And then all of a sudden, 10 hours later, 12 hours later, they trade for one of the best guards in the NFL. They signed a pretty good tight end. And really, like, I knew they were in the Kevin Zeitler thing. I knew they were in that one. And this was probably the next guy on their list. Gabe Jackson, I was pumped. Like, I wrote, like, a fuck yeah, Gabe Jackson baby message, our thread. For me, that's, like, way of the character. I was pretty pumped.
I want you to know, I got to stop here for 1 second. Your Twitter DM almost got me killed. Do you want to know what happened?
No.
I was walking one of my dogs, okay? We were leaving the park, okay, to walk back across the street to the other side of the street. I check down at my phone. I see a fuck yeah Gabe Jackson, and I keep walking across the street and like zoning in on my phone. Of course, like I almost get hit by a car, but that news would have been a good way to go out, frankly, because holy shit.
Yeah, man.
So hold up. There's something weird going on with the Raiders right now because it was like reported that he was cut, right? Like 2 or 3 days ago that he just wasn't being justified with that salary. And now it looks like Oakland is trying to trade those players.
Yeah, and they did it with 2 guys today. So I don't know if this was intentional or unintentional, and it's John Gruden. I don't want to give him too much credit. I don't think he's crafty enough to come up with this, but there were reports and they were planning on releasing Rodney Hudson, who got traded to Arizona today.
Yeah.
And Gabe Jackson was a guy they signed 2 guards today. So they knew that they weren't going to bring him back at that number. And both those players led to trades. And Seattle, I know this from back in the day, Seattle really liked Jackson in the draft in 2014. They came close to picking him. There was a story going around that they actually had called him and told him to stay ready. I think it was a 3rd-round pick. And once Zeitler came off the board, Gabe Jackson was their priority. They thought he was going to get cut. And they ended up having to give him a pick because if you don't end up with Gabe Jackson, there's Trey Turner, and that's pretty much it at the guard position. You would have struck out. So this was a home run move because this gets them this. I sent this message too. They now have 4 pretty good offensive linemen. This is by far the most talented group they've had on this team throughout this whole era. Like Gabe Jackson and Damian Lewis is a really, really good guard combination. And they have Dwayne Brown and Shell, who played really well last year. Like, this is by far the most talented offensive line they've had in this whole regime.
Brian, I just want to commend you for your very strategic decision to jump on after I screamed constantly for 10 minutes straight.
You know, happy St. Patty's Day.
Happy St. Patty's Day.
Yeah, it doesn't feel
happy good Seahawks move day.
Seahawks Green Day. It's a good day. I'm not drinking green beer, but I am drinking Guinness. So
did you see the photo the Seahawks Twitter account posted of Pete with Puna on the extension, and Pete's Pete's shirt, I think it was like a long sleeve shirt that he was wearing, was almost identical to the turf color in the background. Oh. It was like he was like a green screen. I just thought that was funny because you mentioned St. Patty's Day. But Brian, welcome you in. Holy shit. This is fucking huge. They appear to have listened to Russell Wilson. I won't recap everything I just said, but Gabe Jackson is a very dependable, solid starting guard for this football team. Where is your head at? How excited are you right now? No negative talk.
Well, I gotta be honest. I'm still catching up. When I'm working, I'm generally super working and it's been crazy. So I literally just checked Twitter late in the day and I'm like, oh, Gerald Everett. Yep. Makes sense. Came in at the price I pretty much expected. I think we even talked about that on this pod. Then the Gabe Jackson news hit and it's like, wow. So is that it? Is there anything else that happened that I need to know about? Gerald Everett and Gabe Jackson. Those are the 2 moves. Yes.
Oh, I'm so flustered. I can't even think right now. Yeah, nothing else happened, right?
Okay,
Jeff?
good. So, I mean, the Jackson thing, I have not seen a lot of Gabe Jackson play, so I can't really speak to what he is as a player. One of the things that's interesting to me about the Gabe Jackson choice is he's a big dude. So one of the things I've been curious about with the Shane Waldron move and, the idea that they're going to move to more of a outside zone and maybe a little bit more of mobile, nimble linemen, not necessarily all the way to Tom Cable, but somewhat. Gabe Jackson's 340. He's a big dude. So that's right in Mike Solari's wheelhouse. That's a Mike Iupati kind of guy. I'm just kind of curious how that will mesh with what Shane Waldron has in mind. You now have 2 road grading guards. You've got, I think, 2 solid tackles, and I think there's a lot of options even in-house at center. I still think that they will likely add an Austin Blythe. I fully expect that. I mean, it's not like there's gonna be some huge demand for Austin Blythe. Give him a couple $1 million. You should be able to have him and have a competition at center, and whoever comes out, great. Go from there. I see it differently. Pete said in his closing press conference that guard was a priority. So I don't see this as listening to Russ. I'm glad that Russ agrees, and I'm glad that if this is going to make Russ happy, I'm glad it's going to make Russ happy. But I don't think this is about that the quarterback is now setting the free agent priorities. That's not how I see it, at least. So I think that's fine. That's cool. Yeah. I think that Gerald Everett, I like that guy. He's got a lot of he's got a lot of skill, and I think he brings a lot to the table. I think he brings more to the table athletically than pretty much any of the Seahawks tight ends have in the past few years. I mean, Jimmy Graham was super athletic, but he also was hurt, and I think had kind of started to erode. Gerald Everett's like almost wide receiver-y in some of his athleticism. So I just love that. And I think it puts a little less pressure on Dissly. And if Dissly recovers from his injury more in his second year after rehab, which I think we should expect him to, I think you got two great tight ends there. And we don't even know what we have yet in Colby Parkinson. So that could be a really nice trio. Look, guys, now we're skating downhill the rest of free agency in the draft, right? Like now it's less about must. There's a few maybe must, but there's less about must. And it's more about how do you complement and use your space wisely to just get value out of this free agent pool. So huge day. Like this is the hump day for the Seahawks free agency. No doubt about it.
Can I do a trivia question with both of you on Gabe Jackson? 1,000+ snaps last year. Okay. How many sacks and how many quarterback hits did he allow in 2020? Jeff, I will take your submission first. How many sacks and how many quarterback hits? And if you saw my tweet, you're not allowed to answer.
I didn't see your tweet, but maybe like 8 sacks, 12 quarterback hits.
Brian?
I would guess a couple of sacks and like 8 quarterback hits.
0 sacks, 2 quarterback hits all season long.
That's amazing.
That's amazing.
Why does he have like a kind of lower pass protection grade last year then? Like it is interesting. He's been kind of more of a pass protection guard than a run guard, right? Like at least by PFF grades. But he has kind of eroded. He had like a 69.9 pass block grade last year.
Yeah, I mean, I we should look up where that would rank relative to Seattle's starters last year. That'd be interesting. I would.
Best guard.
I think it would be the best. Yeah,
it's got to be the best guard.
You guys talk. Oh, look.
What they've had.
This just in very poisoned brain observations. Russell Wilson is starting to like tweets about Gabe Jackson coming to the Seahawks. So very big news. Holy shit. I can't believe they did it. I can't believe really uncomfortable with the guard group that was remaining. It was pretty much like Trey Turner and Gabe Jackson were like the two remaining out of like, you know, the guys that were available in free agency. And I just wasn't hopeful that they were going to get one of those two. But man, I mean, I was wrong. It is so good to feel this way because this is an element we haven't talked about. He's not a 1-year stopgap. Mm-hmm. He's under contract for the next 2 years at $9.6 million each year. That's for a guard of his caliber, that's a very reasonable deal. I wish the Everett deal was 2 years, but I'm not going to bitch about that. That's not worth bitching about.
Got a little bit later. Like quickly, just to close the loop on the last thing you're saying. So Gabe Jackson was 69.9, and that was one of his lowest pass block grades. Damian Lewis last year was a 47 pass block, and Mike Iupati was a 62. And for folks wondering about Trey Turner, who was the other option, he was a 51 last year pass block. He was actually a 34.
He had a really bad season.
34 overall. He did not do well last year, although I think he was injured. So it does seem like they got the best of the remaining guard options for sure.
Yeah, I think they really wanted Zeidler. They wouldn't have had to give up a pick to get him. From what I understand, they were in it to the end. I think it was Seattle and Baltimore. And Brian tweeted out the story of the day of, I think he just went with the familiarity thing, and this was their best option. It sucks to only have 3 draft picks right now, but they had to do this move. If anyone's complaining that they gave up their draft pick, I do not want to hear it. This was a no-brainer trade. Well,
I'm interested in that. So you guys are both. How do you feel? Like 5th round pick is How's Cam Chancellor? That was Richard Sherman.
It was Tedrick Thompson too.
It was.
Yeah. They had to do this just for so many organizational reasons.
There's just no way you get that like year one value of a Gabe Jackson in the, you know what I mean? Of like a 5th round pick this year.
Unique to the context of the situation. Like,
yeah,
where this team is, what's going on with the quarterback, their options in free agency, like this had to be done. Like it probably hurt John Schneider to pull this trade off. It probably kills him, but he had to do it. No question. This is the fallout of missing on Zeitler.
Do you guys still think they dip their toes in center? Brian, you touched on it a little bit. Are there a couple of names that interest you? I saw Jeff was floating some names on Twitter as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think Blythe is the obvious option. I think David Andrews is the other guy that's at least in consideration. I don't know, Jeff, if there's other names that are on your mind.
Well, I think Blythe is the logical answer. He won't cost anything. It's a plug-and-play guy. Andrews is probably the highest upside guy. A guy I like is Nick Martin from Houston.
Oh.
He was a second-round pick. He signed like a $30 million extension like 2 years ago. Like he's still a pretty decent player who's more of a pass protector than a run guy, but he's played with Dwayne Brown before. He's like Notre Dame offensive line are typically pretty good. And yeah, he's a guy you can stick in there. And when you play like the kind of D lineman you play in this division, to me, having a center with the left guard is really important. I don't want to just stick in some rookie there.
Dayna O'Gorman, welcome to what is one of the most positive, spirited, positive environments in Real Hawk Talk history.
I don't believe you.
I am dead serious. I told Brian this, Dayna, and I'm going to say it to you also.
Okay.
I spent the first 10 minutes of this show probably just screaming, and Jeff had to listen to all of it.
I was a little.
Jeff, I'm
So I just want to say, Dayna, very smart, strategic, decision on your part.
Wait, my turn.
I will not, for your own benefit, scream again or try not to.
Okay.
But with you showing up right now, tell me how you're feeling. These are two big moves Seattle made today. How are you feeling?
I was when the first announcement was tight end, obviously, I was like, oh, good. That wasn't the position group I was looking for. Let's just
Sure.
say that. But then, of course, the announcement right after of the guard from the Raiders, I think that is just, I think that Bob Condata said it when he retweeted it. He was like, Seahawks fans, here is your offensive lineman you've been looking for. And I think that's really it. I think people waited all day for this. And, I don't know if it's just me or if you guys thought so too, but today was kind of slow free agency. I mean, I know all the big stuff had happened the last couple of days and so a lot of that kind of fun and spark was gone. But I think that with today being slower, we thought, gosh, we might even need to wait a few more days. In fact, Jeff, I think you said that to me in our group chat, we might have to wait a few days. And so it was nice to see these two come out back to back. I think that was a huge shot for the fan base.
Hey, happy St. Patty's Day, Dayna.
Thank you. Thank you. I know my husband said I should drink whiskey, but it's not my jam. So
It just feels so good to be happy about the Seahawks making smart decisions.
Evan, let's be honest though. How long is that going to last for you? You think 24 whole hours, maybe? You think we might get a whole day out of it?
Who knows? I might even go higher if they bring somebody in for the pass rush, bring back a Carlos Dunlap, bring a Clowney. Nobody heard me say that. Like there's a couple of moves that could bring me even higher.
Where are we cap wise?
That's a good question.
Where are we cap wise and where are we draft pick wise? Do we have like 2 draft picks now?
2,
3, I believe.
So we have a second, we have a 4th, and I
think there's going to have to
7th.
be corresponding moves.
I think there'll be a trade coming.
So to answer your question, draft picks, 2nd round pick, 4th round pick, and a 7th round pick. Cap space, we're talking like basically 0.
I think there's going to be restructures coming. And Russell being on board with this move could be a domino effect of this.
Russell or Bobby are like the top 2 candidates for restructures. Russell, obviously more since he has a larger salary. Restructuring Russ could bring like $10 to $14 million in cap space. That's how much we're talking.
That's what I kind of envision as the next domino here.
Yeah.
And I did get into the argument with that person on Twitter. And I think that it's important that we just keep repeating this for the fans. The Seahawks can do that at any point without permission from Russell. And I clarified it to make sure I understood it correctly. Because people were getting real mad at Russ online. This is not about Russell Wilson. The team can do that at any point with his contract. So it'll be interesting to see if they find a couple of people they want, and then they flip that switch to get the money to do it.
Yeah, and everyone was probably wondering why they didn't do it earlier, but based on the sounds of Rapport's report, up until yesterday, they were not sure if they were going to trade him or not. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that's true or not. I saw a lot of Bears damage control in that story. But, however, if it is true, yeah, you're not going to restructure a contract that you might be moving. And based on the sounds of the offer, it was a pretty big offer. I would think Seattle would have been dumb to take it, but yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if John in the front office was thinking about that trade.
Yeah, I mean, think about that for a second. If it's true that they were having a conversation even as recently as a few days ago or whatever it was with the Bears, if you think that you might be trading your quarterback, then offensive line may not be your priority position. And so they went after Zeitler, though. I mean, we know that. Like, there's multiple confirmations of that. And if they had gotten him, like, so that's why I kind of call a little bit of BS. Like, I think they knew that they were going to have Russ this whole time. I think that this is blown out of proportion a little bit. And I would also say, forget the restructure. They just traded a 5th-round pick for a guard for the next 2 years. Why would they trade their quarterback after doing that? Like, it doesn't make any sense. This isn't like they got their next 25-year-old guard who's going to be with them for the next 7 years. This guy is, maybe 2 to 5 years, right? So I think
he's only 29, though. Is that correct? 27, 29, something like that. He's not very old. I know Everett is just 20.
He is 29. You're correct.
He is 29.
Yeah, Everett's a young guy. So Everett was the first Rams draft pick that Sean McVay made when he got hired. Mm-hmm. So the boys in our chat will love that. But I've seen a lot of people tonight comparing Everett to Greg Olsen because of the money. And I'm irritated by that. And I was one of the few who liked the Greg Olsen signing, so I took a huge L on that one. But this is a completely different offense. Like, I heard a prominent beat writer say this on the radio. I saw a blogger say this. The Shane Waldron offense, we saw how the Rams played in that 2 tight end package. They're much more of a horizontal offense and a yards after catch kind of offense than what the Seahawks have been doing, which is run the ball and throw it deep. And having a capable tight end who is very good after the catch, and we don't know if that's Will Dissly after the injuries. To me, comparing him and Greg Olsen, who was 35 and couldn't get through the season, to me, that's just a bullshit narrative, and it's lazy.
Yeah, one of our patrons and loyal listeners, Colton, had sent me the pro day or the combine numbers for Luke Wilson and Gerald Everett, and they're pretty comparable. And so, look, I see Gerald Everett as a particularly, at least laterally, shifty player that we haven't really had at a tight end position. Like, once he catches the ball, he tore the Seahawks up for last year, not this past season, the season before, like 180 yards receiving. I'm pretty sure it was like some crazy. This was the game in Seattle. He went off, and there's not Luke Wilson does not go for 180 yards in a game in any offense. So this is not that guy. And look, he knows what the Rams try to do. He's gonna be able to come in. He's gonna be able to be in effect. I think he could potentially be a bigger weepon in Seattle than he was in.
Well, he's not sitting behind Higbee,
and he's not catching passes from a doofus.
Yeah, and
good point.
And Cup and Woods were similar. They were more short yardage, precise players, which didn't really leave a great role for him. Seattle, you got DK, who's got a very different kind of route tree than those two guys run. And same with Tyler. Tyler's more of a beat you off the ball, get deep, which leaves a lot of potential for Everett in different areas of the field. And I don't think he's had that because that's the way Cup and Woods played, and Higbee too. There's a big opportunity for him, especially – I don't see Seattle striking like a big third receiver, like a big name. It'll probably be a draft pick or a low-end veteran. So I think Everett might be the third target in the offense.
Well, remind me if anyone can. The other big name tight ends that went already in free agency, right? They had Hunter Henry went,
Jonnu Smith.
And what did they get per year? I mean, they got
a crap ton from
11 million.
Belichick. Yeah,
like it was over 10, right? So
pretty much double Everett's price.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sorry, like those guys are definitely better than Everett in terms of what they've done. I think Jonnu Smith is a up and comer for sure.
12.5 per year.
I mean, they're not that much better. They're not that gap better than Gerald Everett, I don't think, in this offense with Russell Wilson throwing to him. So I think that's a really reasonable deal for a young tight end that has a lot of upside. And we'll see what it turns into long term, but I think this is one that was so obvious. We were all over it. I think a lot of us expected that to happen. And now just pick another receiver out of that like fat receiver crop that's still out there. And we're looking like if they do that, okay, I want to ask this group. If they just add another receiver, pick your favorite of what's left. Is this offense better than the offense that they had last year?
Without a doubt.
Not even close.
I think that's obvious. Yeah. I mean, right? It has to be. I mean, listen, Waldron wouldn't have brought Everett in if he didn't think that he could have added something to the mix here, right? And so obviously, and he's going to know his style. And so it's obviously just a win-win there. But so that automatically is an upgrade from nothing against the tight ends that were in Seattle last year, but it's an upgrade just because he's already going to know the new system. Now, not to say Waldron won't tweak, and the stuff that they did in LA, but I just think that automatically gives him, an edge up.
Now I've got to ask a tougher question.
Yeah, that was too easy.
Are the Seahawks better off both next season and in future seasons if they trade Tyler Lockett for a draft pick and the cap space to go sign 2 additional receivers? So they get a draft pick and 2 receivers, and Tyler's gone.
Who are you signing? Like
you pick 2 receivers for what you get in terms of the cap space that would generate.
I have a draft pick.
Honestly,
You save almost $13 million.
Yes,
by trading Lockett. So who do you pursue in free agency?
T.Y. Hilton.
I didn't realize Josh Reynolds is.
T.Y. Hilton is essentially Tyler Lockett. They're the same kind of player.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If you get him for half the price, get a 3rd round pick, save the money and spend it elsewhere. Yeah, you're better off. I don't know.
What do you think you could get for Lockett? What's a reasonable expectation?
Maybe a 3rd?
Depends on the team too.
I mean, is a 3rd crazy?
I mean, if it's a team that's got a low
you have to
3rd.
extend them.
I don't know. I will tell you guys at the beginning of the offseason for the Seahawks, we were talking and I said, I thought Tyler Lockett is primed to be traded. And it broke my heart. I love this kid, but he's going to be the guy that a team knows and wants. They want his style of play. They want his production. And so teams will be willing to give up for him compared to some of the other players. I mean, obviously if someone needed Jaron Reed or whatever, that might be different, but Tyler just seemed to be kind of the one that Seattle could live without and another team would want, but it kills me. But I think if you can get 2 players and a pick, yeah.
Well, so here's the thing, like you get a pick, you can pick like T.Y. Hilton, you got Will Fuller, you've got Sammy Watkins. Did the guy from Carolina get signed yet?
Yeah, he signed tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Signed today, yeah, right.
He got a lot of money.
Anyway, like you've got some of those guys. You could get 2 of those guys, right? Juju Smith-Schuster. Like he becomes an option if you want to go get Juju Smith-Schuster. You could probably do him and Sammy Watkins or one of those guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you also could just do one of those receivers and get a pass rusher, right? Like get 2 pass rushers. Like that's a lot of money. I just can't come back to the Seahawks being better with Tyler than having, let's say, a 4th round pick and at least 2 additional players.
I guess the alternative situation is why wouldn't you just extend Tyler Lockett, keep him in the fold, drop his cap number this year, and then make an outside free agent acquisition at
The
receiver.
pick.
Well, you don't get a
You
pick.
get the pick.
Oh, I got it.
You don't get a pick. I mean, I think that's a fine alternative. Evan, I'll ask you, what would you prefer? Like, what do you think would make the Seahawks better?
I think I'd keep Lockett.
Why?
I'm not sure any player you bring in outside of maybe Juju is going to be a significant upgrade at receiver.
Oh, I don't think any of them are upgrades. Tyler's really
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's really good. So if you want to bring in, let me put it this way. I'd rather have Lockett and like a super cheap veteran. Like I'm trying to think of like a Rashad Perriman, like Jeff mentioned. Then like two sort of higher mid-tier receivers and have a draft pick, like a third or fourth round pick. I just think Lockett and Russell have a special connection, and I'm not sure I want to get rid of that.
Well, the other thing that I think we have to remember with Seahawks receivers, and that we've heard this from ex-Seahawks receivers too, is that Russell is a difficult quarterback in the fact that you have to learn his patterns. You have to learn the way he plays. You have to learn how to extend the play because he extends the play and keep moving. And, Doug Baldwin was a master at that. But you see Tyler now does it and DK does it. That takes some time. So I think that I would rather, God, it hurts me, but I'm going to agree with Evan and keep Lockett. And I know, that's twice today, and I really need help or therapy or something. But I think that's smarter just because they've already got that rhythm, and that can take a year or two to develop.
I think I'm gonna go the other way. I think the other way makes you better. They're short on draft picks, so you kind of have to look at what can you move for draft picks. Honestly, there isn't much. The guys they would move, like you're not trading DK, you're not trading like you could trade Jamal Adams, like you could flip him to someone else.
We've had this conversation.
It's not a terrible idea based on where they're at.
It's not if, it's when, but continue.
Stop it.
Yeah, so the combination of adding a pretty high priority draft pick, like a Will Fuller or a Juju or a TY, and like they do a lot of what Tyler does. And if you can add somewhere else, it's sort of a win-win-win all around. Data's point is true. Like it's hard to find guys. Russell is not a drop back. The receiver will be there, and boom, he can be that, but that's not his play. He creates. He's a special creator. He's great at finding players off script, and yeah, Tyler is the best. And there's a case to be made that Tyler's potentially the most valuable player they have based on what the offense is like when he's off.
Yeah.
But no matter what, they need a third receiver for that exact reason. They can't sneak around on this, whether it's a draft pick, and I know they don't have a lot. This is a really good receiver draft again. And the free agent pool is still loaded with names, whether at the top end or the bottom. They can't go into the situation that if one of DK or Tyler gets hurt, they're left with like Freddie Swain playing, or if DK or Tyler bangs up his knee and he can't get open deep, they're screwed. That's happened the last 2 years. And they need to make sure that they understand that priority because they really haven't.
But the Seahawks just put out a Freddie Swain highlight reel.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
I said the other day, like they might internally like him, but
I like him. I'm more bullish on Freddie Swain than others. I don't think he's a Tyler Lockett replacement, but
he's fourth, fifth receiver.
But there's also guys. I mean, if you did trade Tyler, I mean, what's Kenny Golladay gonna get at this point?
He's gone through like a weird free agency period where he's meeting with like the Bengals and the Giants.
Yeah, because he's trying to get money and no one's gonna give him what he wants.
He doesn't have the market I think he thought he was.
I mean, you're telling me that like a wide receiver crew that had Kenny Golladay and DK Lockett, wouldn't be particularly interesting. I mean, another guy that's certainly not a big name, but we haven't talked about much is Isaiah McKenzie. You guys know much about Isaiah McKenzie?
Mm-mm.
Buffalo guy. He's 26. He's 5'8". He's like a little mighty might. He is the total end around like.
Hey, I'm 5'8". Okay.
So, he's a guy that I think will be a sleeper for somebody that could come in. Evan, you'll get this. He's like what Tavon Austin is supposed to be, like actually dangerous and useful. But like, yeah, I think there's a chance for them to get two receivers. And I think trading this 5th round pick is not a nothing move.
Now, can I flip the question?
Yeah.
And ask a alternate version of the question? Would you trade Jaron Reed to open up cap space and make a free agent wide receiver addition.
Why would you trade one of the best interior pass rushers in the NFL?
You're gaslighting me. Okay. There's no. Okay. Good. Okay. Just making sure. Would you? Yes or no?
Yeah. I have no problems trading Jaron Reed. I don't think you're going to get anywhere near the market for Jaron Reed.
The problem is Jared Reed from last year's deal. It's a bloated deal that Evan tweeted out perfectly. It looks pretty stupid after you saw what Puna got. Yeah, what are you going to get from him? Like a sixth rounder? Who's going to take on a $13.5 million defensive tackle at this point?
Well, it'd be less because they wouldn't pay the signing bonus, but yeah, it'd be like 8.5.
That's the problem with the Tyler trade too. We're not the only ones that are seeing all these good receivers that are probably going to be available for cheap on free agency. The market for trading for a receiver has got to be as soft as it's ever been. And Lockett, as much as we love him, and I think he's respected, I don't think most people think about him as like a number one. So
can I ask you guys a batshit insane question?
Yeah.
All you ever asked.
We're on here.
Brian, you dickhead. What would it take to get OBJ? What would it take? Draft capital wise. Like or player wise, what would it take to get him in a trade?
I hate that question. You guys can answer that one.
No, because I don't want him anywhere near Seattle.
Jeff, do you like OBJ at all?
Like I'd be okay with it. It just doesn't make sense at all.
How many divas can we have on a team, for God's sake? Oh,
I said it was a batshit insane question, so I prefaced it.
It doesn't really. Like Seattle doesn't have draft capital. What are they trading?
I do wonder what his tweet the other day meant, though. It said second act.
The reporter from New York said he was just talking about his recovery from injury. Apparently, they texted each other. It's just that's OBJ.
I know he's a drama queen. No, thank you.
I don't think this team needs another drama queen right now.
I don't think we need more cryptic tweets from the Seahawks.
If we're going to get another drama queen, he better be a cornerback who's been here before. That's all I got to say about that.
Like we haven't started to talk about if the Jamal contract gets a little testy. What kind of drama?
You cut out for the last 2 seconds. What'd you say?
Well, I said we've already got all this drama, and the Jamal contract hasn't started yet. So we know how he is when he's not happy. So,
do you think they've attempted to start extension talks with him, or has the topic not even been broached yet?
I don't think so, because I don't think the safety market has moved yet, and I think they just have so many other things they got to do right now. I think that's once they start to clear out the draft, I think that's going to be their priority.
That's probably a good point.
You know whose name we haven't heard? KJ Wright.
I was wondering if this move today kind of ends the KJ to Seattle.
It's unless they do a restructure, right?
I would think that, I mean, and you said the prime people for restructures are Russell and Bobby. And if they, decide that, and I said this, I'll say it out loud to everyone. I said it in our chat, KJ's not an idiot. He realizes that, it's he and Bobby, that tandem that is so powerful. And he's not going to want to end his, career on a down note. I mean, I guess if he pads his wallet enough, maybe he will. But it would seem logical to me that if Seattle is within $1 million or $2 million of whatever offer he's going to get, he's going to stay in Seattle knowing that that's where, his family is and Bobby is. And you can't tell me that they wouldn't just tweak Bobby's contract to make that happen. I just think it's logical to keep him where he is, knowing you've only got him for another year or two before he retires.
I feel bad for the dude because he played his ass off last year and he deserves a good contract. Guys like him are the worst hit by this cap from an NFL perspective, not overall in the world, but from an NFL perspective, to be a free agent and be older.
Yeah, I agree.
This year, like, he's not going to get, I don't know. What is he going to get? 4 million? Maybe.
Yeah. Like if you notice, there's zero buzz on KJ.
Linebackers in general.
I looked at the list while you guys were talking. I don't see any intriguing name. A lot of the teams that had the big money had spent their money. So he's going to have to make either a fit choice or take money to get a second chance. I don't know. I don't see it.
Linebackers have almost become running backs in terms of value.
Yeah. Especially a 30-year-old off-ball linebacker.
Off-ball linebackers, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
interesting.
I mean, look, I think the recipe's there, isn't it? Like, sign a receiver, sign at least one pass rusher.
Bring back Dunlap is what you mean. That's what you mean to say.
There's a lot of good pass rushers. I mean, I'd like it to be Dunlap, but honestly, I feel like they could end up with 2 pass rushers.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, and it was notable that wasn't it Hassan Reddick, who's 24, 25. He signed him for $6 million.
Crazy.
So
It's
13
crazy.
sacks last year.
yeah, so that's kind of where this group is now. And there's a lot of names still out there: Melvin Ingram, Alden Smith, Clowney. I don't think he'll come back, but Carlos
Mike
Dunlap.
Kerrigan.
Notice Carlos Dunlap has 0 buzz in free agency. And this is why I kept saying to a lot of people on Twitter before the thing that I know a lot of people were like, well, extensions are hard. I was warning Carlos Dunlap about it hitting the market because this is what I envisioned. It's a buyer's market, and that's why me and Evan kind of got into it, where Evan thought he might get closer to Watt.
Yeah, that doesn't look good right now.
It's possible. Maybe someone gets desperate, but this is what, just
checked.
looking at all the names, this is what I envisioned happening once the top guys came off the board.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's value to be had
Yeah,
with that pass rush spot.
But the Seahawks are going to have to create cap space to do all those things. But I mean, I think they have to.
They have to. They just have too many holes on their roster and no picks. Like,
they have to come out, like, absolute no doubt about it. They have to get a pass rusher and they have to get a receiver out of this group. Those are like, if they do that, they like, I would almost say, I wouldn't say they have to, but it would be nice for them to get a running back.
I don't know if they have to get a receiver.
I think it would be nice
if they have to get a receiver. Is that what you said?
Yeah, I'm not in the must-have camp.
Really?
A receiver or running back?
Receiver.
Receiver.
What do you think? You draft one?
Yeah.
But it'd be a great year to draft him.
Yeah, I'm just not.
I love this receiver group, and I just feel like you can get such a screaming deal on a quality receiver.
I think you do both, because that opens up, if you don't sign Tyler next year.
Yeah, but then that leaves you with Rashad Penny as your running back, people.
Well, they drafted him in the first round. They obviously thought pretty highly of him.
Oh, it gives me so much stress to think about.
Yeah.
Making it past game 3. Are you going to make it past game 3, Rashad?
Damian Williams got let go. You've got Fournette out there. You've got options. They're going to be cheap.
Yeah, Marlon Mack signed for $2 million.
Who?
Marlon Mack signed for $2 million.
That's such a steal, I feel like.
Like, if that's what the Damian Williams market or something like that is, like, you could sign a guy like that before the draft or something.
And like Marlon what's his name?
Marlon Mack.
Marlon Mack. He's not a bad player.
No, he was good. He just tore his
Yeah.
Achilles in week 1 last year and never played.
I will tell you what I would get excited about now is grab, like, the way Schneider, I know this for sure. The way Schneider approaches free agency is he wants to go into the draft without having needs. That's his preference, that he can just draft based off where the value falls. And so he knows where he's got gaps on the roster. He sees the same gaps that we do. But I mean, if they sign an Austin Blythe, let's say, or something at center, I still would love them to potentially, if it falls to them, there's some great centers in this draft. Like, I would love to see them invest in another, like, stud center to be part of a long-term solution for them. And that would mean that the guy wouldn't have to start as a rookie. Maybe you don't have to depend on him. And if he does, then you cut Blythe. Blythe is probably going to get a pretty much non-guaranteed contract. And you're no worse for the wear. But, like, that's what I would love to see happen. And there's probably some similar things you can do at receiver.
You know what? I wonder if, to go back to the running back thing for a second, I wonder if Carson's market gets so low that they look at bringing him back.
If it's at a good price, I'd do it.
I think we would do it. I think Carson's.
Yeah, I don't think he would.
That's true. That's true.
I think, like, Mike Davis might be an option there. I know.
Brian doesn't like him. I think he's a good kid. I mean, he's good, and
He's a fine guy. It's not that.
Would you look at Le'Veon Bell just as like a veteran 1-year deal? No?
I like James Conner.
I like James Conner.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he might be available. He's He's out there.
Huh.
He could be one year, $2.5 million.
What's the next move they make, Evan?
Acquisition, or are you talking like internal roster management?
Oh, I don't know. I like leaving it open like that. What's the next move? Like, let's do both.
They're gonna open up cap space. They're gonna open up cap space as their next move, and I think they move Reed. I'm not sure if it's trade. I'm not sure if it's cut, but I think they do something with him. It just making almost $14 million this next year. This just doesn't feel there, but maybe I'm wrong. So that's my pick.
God, if they could have moved Reed and got Brockers for like the 7th round conditional 2029 pick that the Lions gave up.
Yeah, I don't think the Rams were doing that trade here.
I know.
No.
I don't think so. They would ask for a first or something.
How do you guys feel about our rivals, where they are, the moves that they've made?
You mean our Cardinals?
Cardinals, Rams, and 49ers.
Our Cardinals.
Yeah, I'm going to bash the Cardinals. I think they're getting way too much attention. And I think AJ Green and JJ Watt are the kind of moves you make, and people who want to write those winners and losers of free agency articles every year that always have like the Dolphins and the Bucks. Those are the kind of guys that are going to show up on those articles.
Do you like the Hudson move?
I like the Hudson move. The Hudson move was great. It was a steeper price for an older lineman, but Roddy Hudson's a really good center to put with Kyler Murray in this division. I like the Hudson move, but I think Watt and AJ Green looked terrible last year. Like, we were talking about him as a $3 million player.
What did he get paid?
He got somewhere in the 6 to 8 range.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
Like, he's nothing now. Like, they have good players, but JJ Watt and AJ Green, to me, those are just overpays that sound like a desperate team. Like, those are the kind of.
I saw the best tweet. I think I shared it with you guys today. And someone said, Cardinals winning offseason with JJ Watt and AJ Green signing. And someone retweeted it, says, you mean the 2014 offseason? And I think that's a really good point. They're great names and they bring fans to the stands, and their fan base will be thrilled. I just don't know how much impact they'll have on the field. Not that JJ Watt still can't make an impact, because he definitely can, but he has to be on the field to do it. So hopefully that works out.
I understand, Dayna. Arizona is where people go to retire.
Fair.
All the old people are
They
there.
like old people.
All the old people in Evan.
I am an old person. What are you talking about?
I know.
The oldest kid I know.
I did not know. Evan, you'll love this. They signed a kicker.
They did. Matt Prater.
Matt
Right?
Prater's might be my favorite kicker.
Is it just because he hits like 60-yard field goals?
He looks like he's always got a beer on the sideline. He comes out, he's like, oh, you going to kick something? Okay. And then he walks and he's clutch. The guy, he just goes out there and nails winning field goals from any length. And there's almost never a doubt. Like, I don't know if I've ever seen him miss a kick. The guy's like money.
So that's concerning, because Seattle and Arizona are always in these like 6-6, like 9-3 football games.
And that's why they signed him.
Are you worried about
The Cardinals have added J.J. Watt, Matt Prater, A.J. Green. They signed Robert Alford, who was already with them. And then they got Hudson, right?
they lost Patrick Peterson tonight?
Oh, where'd he go?
He went to Minnesota.
Minnesota.
Oh, all right. I'm kind of glad. I didn't want him coming to Seattle. I don't think he's very good, but I was going to be okay. The Seahawks, I mean, we didn't really, I don't know, did we talk about Witherspoon since that signing happened?
No,
I don't think we did.
Holy crap. I mean, that was you got Shaquille Griffin going out making how much a year?
15.
15, yeah.
$15 million a year? Is that right?
Yeah.
Holy balls. And then you've got Akila Witherspoon coming in making 4?
4, guaranteed. Mm-hmm.
Can anyone tell me what makes Shaquille Griffin worth $11 million more per season than Akila Witherspoon?
That's insane.
That's insane.
That's insane.
And look, thank God someone paid him, because the Seahawks apparently were wanting to re-sign him. And we would be having a very different conversation right now if the Seahawks are like, we signed Griffin. That's kind of the major thing we could do. And now we're just going to get a bunch of like crappy players. Oh, that was huge. That's exactly how they should approach free agency.
I wonder what their final offer to him was. You know what I mean? Like, was it 10, 11, 12? Man, even 10 would have been really hard to stomach.
Yeah, it's a Jared Reed move all over again, and those are the kind of moves that
doesn't move the needle.
Yeah, and it's the kind of paying big money to average players are the kind of moves that kill you in a cap system.
And I think they would have had to have beaten Jacksonville's offer by quite a bit since, he's from, Florida. He played college in Florida. He's always wanted to go back to Florida. So I think Seattle would have had to beat it by quite a bit. So thank God they didn't play the game because it just would have been a nightmare.
Where are we with the comp pick situation? I don't know exactly how that works. Does the Gerald Everett thing cancel out the Shaquille Griffin signing? I mean, they're such different.
Oh, and Witherspoon. I think they're out of comp picks already.
Probably.
I think it's a numbers game, right, Evan? It's not contract value.
I actually know nothing about comp picks.
I think it's based on how many players you sign versus how many players you lose.
It's like versus that going. I will say, I won't say who, but I heard some very good things from people that know about Akilla Witherspoon. I think Seahawks fans should be really excited about that player. If you look at his tape over the last few games of last season for San Francisco, he came on really, really strong. So this guy's 6'3".
Mm-hmm. He's a prototypical cornerback. Yeah.
He has not picked off the ball very well in his career, so he doesn't have that to go for him, but he has broken up a fair amount of passes at different points. I think he's exactly the kind of guy you want to go in. 1-year deal. If it works, great. Maybe you extend him. If not, you add him to the pile. And so do you guys feel like they're done at corner?
No, I think Sherman's coming back. I swear to God, I'm going to keep pounding this drum.
You want it to happen or you think it's going to happen?
Is there a difference? I can wish this into reality. I'm sorry, Will Blackman told him to come back to Seattle today. I don't know why.
Will Blackman tweeted that, and then Quandre started lobbying him on Twitter. Quandre is just like, Uncle Sherman, come back. We need you.
Yeah. And then Sherman retweeted it and said that crazy safeties are the only way to go. So I'm telling you, it will be so good.
But he even said, like, Witherspoon and Reed, you guys are good. Like, you don't need me. So
we need you. He just, please, he wants his ego fed, and I will feed his ego all he needs. I'm telling you. No, I think it would be hilarious though if we ended up with Reed, Witherspoon, and Sherman on the team. I don't think San Francisco would appreciate that very much.
Witherspoon's maybe best game of the year was Week 17. He was covering DK, and he had a really good game against DK. And so you're buying low on a guy with a big upside, which is the exact opposite of the Shaq Griffin contract. I was terrified yesterday when all those rumors came out that Seattle was making a push to sign him. And the way that kind of flipped around by them getting a guy for, a fraction of the price, that's just good. That's good business. And the last 2 days, they've had very, very good days, the Seahawks. I think all three of the moves they make and the moves they didn't make, I don't think you can complain about anything they've done so far, which is rare for this group.
You guys were like ready to like jump off the freaking bridge like hours ago. I love it.
Seahawks life.
It's a very fluid fridge. He's fluid, man. One move changes everything.
Evan, we breathed some life into you. What was it? Monday? When was it? We
Monday.
Met?
Yeah, you got me slightly optimistic, and look what happened.
That's right. You got it. You got to have some belief.
Wait, no, I have a question for you guys though, before we move on from this.
Yeah.
So I've seen over and over and over again on Twitter, people saying Seahawks fans can talk themselves into any move and turn it into a good thing. Is that what's happening here?
No.
Or is this just good logic on a bad cap year and a questionable draft year? Is it good logic?
This is an objectively good move.
Yeah.
I don't know that you know how to be objective, but I'll ask the other.
I'm just telling you the truth. This is objectively good.
This
Fuck
isn't
the haters.
like Benson Mayowa might be the next Chris Clemens kind of thing, Gerald Everett was the guy we targeted the second they hired Shane Waldron. All of us who've talked Seahawks said that name just made sense on a number of levels. They needed a second tight end. Witherspoon was a guy in my article I wrote on Saturday. His name was in there. I thought there were a number of buy low corners, and the thing that corners have had coming into this scheme, like Dunbar had it last year, he was not comfortable. Witherspoon played in this defense. He slides in right away. DJ Reed slid right into this defense. Gabe Jackson was a guy this team's liked for a long time. They tried to draft him. They were gonna, based on what Jay Keeps was saying, they were gonna try to sign him if he got cut. That was their plan, and he fits. All three of these players fit very seamlessly into what they have. It's not like a move like, oh, Kerry Williams is coming. Like, oh, let's convince ourselves that might be good. Or Jimmy Graham is like this in football. Two things really matter: scheme fit and familiarity with coaches. And they've hit on two of these in a high level. And Gabe Jackson's played in the Tom Cable offensive line. He's played in the power offensive line. He's been good in both.
I did want to bring that up, that we're just, mining Tom Cable's. Tom Cable's still continuing to help the Seahawks offense, even from afar.
So that's the thing. If Tom Cable's getting rid of a player, he's pretty good.
Well, I think it's a really good question, Dayna. And there are a couple of things I'd say. One, Gerald Everett was number one for me on tight end list. There's literally no other tight end I would rather have, given the cost to value. So if we would have had to pay for a Hunter and Henry or a Jonnu Smith, that would not have been the deal where I'd want the cap money to go relative to the production difference you get for getting those guys versus Gerald Everett. So they got, from my perspective, number one target, value to skill. Then you go to Gabe Jackson. Let's say, okay, hey, maybe we're talking about where he used to be. His worst year, the last couple of years have not been great for him. Now they've been under Tom Cable, so maybe that has something to do with it. But he was like 63 grade overall from PFF, and his pass block grade, his worst pass block grade of his career, was 69.9. That was last year. Worst. That is significantly better than any of the guys that they've run. So he plays the same, as bad as he's ever played. He will be significantly better at a pass protection, which is what matters right now with Russ, than anyone that they've put in that position for a while. So it's an upgrade. And then, Witherspoon, I think you'd be hard pressed to find a better value to skill play at the corner position. So I think they're all very solid moves. I don't think they're dependent on Witherspoon being like the next thing. Marquise Blair could end up beating him out and he's a backup. Great. So be it. But I think the larger question is is the team a lot better than they were? I don't know that I think the team's a lot better than they were. If they had signed, a Corey Linsley or something, that for me would have been a more meaningful change to their trajectory than what they've done so far. They didn't do that. So, I wish maybe they had on some cases, but if they end up with two decent offensive linemen for what would have been the same price of Linsley, so be it. I think that's a fine option too.
Yep. And I was asked this question on Twitter. Do I still think that they're going to get a center? Or are they going to have Lewis be center? I don't think Lewis is center. He's very good at his position. I think they'll get another center somewhere from the draft or free agency, but they'll get a center.
I agree.
You got to block Aaron Donald in this division. You can't have.
Good luck, though. No one blocks Aaron Donald.
No, but you've got to have some sort of functional plan. You can't have a turnstile there.
At some point, that dude has to get old and slow down a little, right? Eventually, at some point, he has to.
Speed up, Father Time. Speed up.
Don't worry. Even if he gets injured in the playoffs, they'll still score no points.
So true. And what about the 49ers?
So the 49ers have made effectively good moves, but there's still one lingering problem that all these good moves are negated by. And that is Jimmy Garoppolo. And until they solve that, they basically have to have the best roster of all time to win with, and they still didn't win. When they had Nick Bosa and Sherman and Buckner, Fred Warner, that was one of the best defenses we've seen since the Seahawks teams. That was maybe the best defense we've seen, and they still didn't win the Super Bowl. So they got Trent Williams back. They signed Alex Mack today.
I'm sad about Alex Mack.
Jason Verrett signed there, same deal as Witherspoon, essentially. So those are three good moves. Paying $24 million to a 33-year-old left tackle. There's going to be a lingering.
But he was really good last year.
No, he is an incredible player. He's maybe the best in the league, but that might have a lingering effect later.
think Alex Mack is a little bit overrated. He's 35 years old, and
Don't you dare shit on
clearly-
the hype Mac. I love that man. Big Mac. Oh,
I think it's gonna. We'll see if they can trade up in the draft and get a quarterback.
They can go grab Gardner Minshew.
Wait a
He's
second.
available.
Didn't they pretty much just add Alex Mack and Samson Ekubon? Like, aren't those the only two additions that they made? Trent Williams already played for them last year.
Yeah,
They
that's what
played
I'm
really
They
well.
signed a lot of their own. That
DJ
is
Jones
for sure.
played for them last year.
Mhm.
They're gonna lose Sherman.
They're going to lose Sherman.
Witherspoon.
So I'm just asking, like,
Solomon Thomas is gone.
Mhm.
well, he sucks. But yeah, I like, they
We
basically
drafted
added,
over Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes. That's a stat for you.
so I don't know. I don't know that the 49ers, the way they get better is to be healthy next year if they can manage to do
Mhm.
that. But like you said, they've got a limited quarterback position.
Mhm.
So I don't know. I just feel like free agency is such a mind screw. Like, people, like, they see the names going by, they see the money, they just see, like, all right, those are good guys. San Francisco got a lot better, but it's like, did they?
Mhm. We have a saying that we use over at Our Turf quite a bit, and it's perfect for this time of year. Right now, like the Cardinals are a perfect example. It's all shiny on paper. On paper, this looks fantastic. But in gameplay, is it going to make the difference in the impact that you need it to? And there's always some teams that on paper it's as shiny as it is on the field. But most teams, especially teams that go out and get those names like Watt, and I'm going to get murdered for this JJ Watt hate. I love JJ Watt. You know I love defense. But it's not always as shiny on the field. And so I think the 49ers, we could see that, especially because of their quarterback. And I think we could definitely see that in Arizona.
And I think we won't really know until the draft happens, because that's how you truly get better in the NFL.
Who added the best offensive lineman in the division? I would say the
Probably
Cardinals,
Cards.
probably with
Cardinals,
Hudson,
probably Rodney Hudson.
but it's close with Jackson. Mack is a distant third, right?
It's fair.
Yeah, and Max turning 36 this year.
Right, distant third.
Center. Yeah.
And I think it's at least a question about whether the Seahawks added the better lineman, depending on how you feel about guards versus centers. Like, it's a question. Who added the best corner? Seahawks.
Yeah.
The other teams didn't add
I
it.
think they're the only.
I was trying to think. I'm like, did the
They didn't
Rams
add it.
go somebody
Who
else?
added the best pass rusher?
Well, the Rams have Ramsey and Darius Williams. So
Yeah.
Mhm.
Who added the best pass rusher?
has
Right
AT
now-
made a move?
Arizona.
AJ Watt.
Oh,
JJ
duh.
Watt in the
JJ.
in Arizona, and then you've got the Samson dude from
Yeah,
that was a backup in LA that moved to San Francisco. Seahawks
Mhm.
haven't made a move there yet. Is there any reason to think that Seahawks, if they sign one or two, if they sign, two of those guys that we've talked about, I think that's better than adding Watt.
Mhm.
Potentially. Watt at $15 million is
Right.
it's
Bad
to
deal.
me that move
It's
is
a bad
getting
deal.
I think it's the worst deal of the offseason. And
They're
I know
gonna
everyone
regret it.
got super excited with Chandler. Getting Chandler Jones back, to me, that's a big deal.
Hmm.
He is a stud. He is at good age. But when you see what veteran pass rushers are going to end up going for in this market, to give them 3 times the price on JJ Watt, who you could have got like a Matt Judon for, is like a 26-year-old pass rusher.
And then other than center, did they add anyone else on that line? Because, that poor kid was running for his life the entire season. So did they beef up that line at all other than at center? I don't know. I love Kyler Murray. I like to watch him play. I think he's great, but the poor kid, was seeing ghosts because he was so used to running around. One thing we have to keep in mind is that the NFC West is arguably either the or one of the best divisions in football, without question, right? And the Seahawks managed to win it last year, even with all the troubles Russell had in the second half of the season. So I don't think that you can just write Seattle off because they lost Shaquille Griffin. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's not what this is about. The other teams are trying to catch them. And so as long as we stay pat and we fill the holes that we need to fill, and the drama kind of calms down a little bit, I still think that this is going to be a really good team in a really good division.
I agree, Dana. And I just think gonna say who got the best receiver. I think the Cardinals right now, the only one that signed one, I think, in AJ Green. I don't think it's gonna be hard for the Seahawks to eclipse that, depending. So, like, I guess my point is, I see a very clear path to where the Seahawks end up adding more value. People keep mentioning names of people that the teams re-signed. That's not adding value. That is treading water.
But there's one addition of the Rams quarterback.
That's right.
And that's
Matt Stafford.
That's a pretty giant upgrade.
100%. But they also lost guys, John Johnson. Yeah. They're losing guys as well. So I'm talking about So I just think the Seahawks have the potential to be, of the division, the team that adds the most. I still think the 49ers are the most talented team in the division.
They were last year.
Without question.
When they're healthy, they're overwhelmingly talented.
Yeah.
Still.
Yeah.
Not that I have blinders on. I just, I think the Seahawks.
Well, I think if you take quarterbacks out of the division, Aaron Donald's probably the best player in the division.
100%.
I think if you maybe Ramsey second, and then if you listed off all the other guys, they would have a lot. They have Kittle. They have.
You know what the absolute worst case scenario situation that could happen over the next 2 months? Deshaun Watson gets traded to the Niners.
Oh, don't.
Oh, that happens.
It's not. Why not?
Well, no, there was like this whole thing about how San Francisco has said that over and over they are not trading for Deshaun Watson. They're keeping Jimmy Garoppolo, and that they don't. It's something about. Oh shit! This was like true to. Oh, sorry.
But they're not going to do it until they do it. You know what I mean?
I think the tricky thing for them is like someone like Carolina, whose owner is driven to get a quarterback. He does not come from the football world. They're going to have much better draft capital to offer. Yep. So how does San Francisco top that unless they throw in like a Kittle or a Bosa? And then if the Jets or Dolphins do get involved, then those two teams are up because they can't come close to matching that.
Let me ask this. I'm really curious, you guys. So no doubt that Matt Stafford's a huge upgrade over Jared Goff. Do we already agree that Russell Wilson is better than Matt Stafford?
Yeah.
So that's first question. I think we're all I think objectively people would agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
Then my next question is, how much better do you think Russell could be? Let's just close our eyes and assume that they're going to run something similar to the McVay scheme. How much better do you think Russell could be in that kind of scheme? Are you guys expecting Russell to be better next year than he was last year?
Yeah.
Which half of the season?
Still, the second half was the worst he's ever played.
Yeah.
Second half was the worst he's ever played.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, I mean, and he's been talking a little bit this offseason. He knows he's going to have to back it up. He's got the offensive coordinator that he basically hand selected. Mm-hmm. He's got better offensive line. He's hopefully going to have a few more receivers. He's got a good tight end group. We'll see what happens at running back. I think that, yes, LA added Stafford, and that's great. But I think we still have the best quarterback in the division regardless. And I think there's a real shot to think that, once again, next year could be Russell's career year. There's reason to think that this could be the moment where they find the right balance and the right way to scheme him out of some of the pressure and get him on the edge and do what he does well. It could all click. It could absolutely. I don't think that's a crazy thing to say.
I think so too. I think they saw the formula that works last year for 1,000 different reasons that has been argued, to death on Twitter. It didn't work in the second half, and we'll just leave it at that. But I think they realized what is possible, and they're going to figure out how to sustain it longer. And so to me, that automatically puts, if he wasn't already before, he's heads and tails above every other quarterback in this division. Heads and tails.
It's a good night, folks.
Tonight was huge. That trade really changes the whole conversation around. It's not just did you upgrade the offensive line? And I think the way Evan came out of the show and he was screaming. He was literally screaming at me.
Jeff, did you feel attacked?
I was because I was pretty pumped up too. And then you came out and I'm just holy crap. I'm dealing with the Ultimate Warrior over here. But it's justified, man. They haven't made an offensive line acquisition like this in the offseason really before. Dwayne Brown was an in-season trade. if this got like you could see it in our group today, if they struck out on something like this, and they're looking at like Trey Turner and they have to deal with this question all offseason long, like why didn't you address your offensive line? Russell asked it every time he gets sacked. This changes the complete conversation around the organization. Like that, removing that, like the fact that they've said no to that trade this morning and then this came out, the whole narrative around the team is completely different now. It's like a weight lifted off their shoulders. And to me, that is so significant. Because if they struck out on this after the whole Zeitler thing, and then they didn't go after Thuney, I don't believe, or Lindsley, and they end up with like Austin Blythe and some like 33-year-old guard who gets beat out by a rookie, that storyline would have never gone away.
Someone brings up in the chat, I don't even know how to, Nathaniel 11 says, the Jackson trade means that Damian Lewis likely moves to left guard next to Dwayne Brown. How do you guys feel about that?
I don't know if that's true.
I don't think that is, because he's played both positions, correct?
Well, Gabe Jackson was a left guard, and his best years, like early on, they signed Osemele, one of Brian's favorite players, and he was a pure left guard, like very similar to Mike Upati in build. So they moved him to right guard, and
for what it's worth, Jake Heaps said on Twitter, the expectation is that Damian Lewis moves to left guard. That could just be him predicting, or maybe he knows something, but that's what he expects at least.
I mean, I think it would be, I love the idea of Damian Lewis playing next to Dwayne Brown.
I mean, is there like mentorship value there? Is that, or am I making that up?
No, line communication between the guard and tackle is huge.
Yeah.
And having somebody that knows what's going on and can identify what the defense is doing absolutely can help the guy next to him.
And it's also, if you're going to run the ball to the left with those two guys, and then you have like more of a veteran guy besides Shell, which probably stabilizes that side a little bit, there might be a pretty good case for that.
Yeah. Oh man, I'm telling you, and you guys are gonna have to like kiss the ring if Phil Haynes wins the center position and is good. My. I want to hear it from all of you. I want to hear it. Phil Haynes, don't sleep.
Okay, hold up. If Phil Haynes wins the starting center position, is what you said?
Yes.
If Phil Haynes wins the starting center position, I will buy you.
And is good.
Define good.
Better than Ethan Posick.
Is that good?
Okay.
Yeah.
For the 2020 season. Okay. I'll buy you a Phil Haynes jersey in Youth XL.
Dude, you do not know how I've been eating or lack of exercising. I could fit that on my leg maybe at this point. Oh man. Yeah. I'm serious, man. We're going to figure out that center spot, one spot to fill, one spot. So, I mean, at this point you got Kyle Fuller and Phil Haynes are your two options. And then maybe they'll add somebody.
Yeah, I saw Jake was just tweeting about some draft prospect he wants them to take now at center.
Yeah.
So he's into it already.
Do it.
Is there anything else we want to cover tonight? Any comments, predictions for the next several days, hopes, wishes? Feels like we've covered a lot.
Yeah, I think it'll calm down now with Seattle. I don't know that we'll see maybe one more move. I don't think that we'll see a whole lot more out of them. Do you guys think we will? I think that it'll be
going to need an edge rusher at some point.
I'm not convinced of
they
that,
bring
Dayna.
Carlos back. Really?
I'm not sure they're done.
If they open up some money, it'll be interesting.
Who would be who's the name? Like, give me. It doesn't have to be a specific any position. Give me the name that if you hear it next, you would be most excited about. Unrestricted free agent.
David Andrews would give me an orgasm.
Oh God. Do not sign.
Why did you ask that question?
That back.
I'm just letting you know.
Dayna, you don't have to.
I don't know what I just said. I'm so sorry. It's the first thing that came to my mind, and I don't have a filter. So
okay, Jeff.
Carlos Dunlap.
Yeah. Okay.
Mine too. That's exactly who I was thinking. I want him back on the team.
$5 million.
Mm-hmm.
That would just look so fucking smart.
God, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the name that would make me most excited would be Richard Sherman.
Oh God! Oh, Shermy.
Dan, how did you not pick that?
Dana, how dare you shit on Richard Sherman? Oh my Lord. Good
You
Lord.
know, I literally would tear up. Like it's not logical with me when it comes to Richard Sherman. I have great stories about that I will share with you guys later, but it's not logical with me with Richard Sherman. So I would tear up. But I think for the team long term, I think Dunlap is a good pick.
Yeah.
Oh, Shermy.
Brian?
Oh man. If it wasn't Sherman, I think it might be crazy enough. I think it might be a receiver. Like, yeah, I don't know. I'm looking through names right now.
There's so many.
Yeah. Who was it that I was just looking at? Yeah, I mean, Will Fuller would be a pretty cool name to hear. I just think he's a great fit for what the Seahawks do. But I don't know. There's some really good names out there, so I'm excited. This is just like the Seahawks. I mean, if you haven't figured out about the Seahawks,
they're a pain in the ass.
They don't do anything well in the first round. They don't do anything well on the first day of free agency. They are back half of the draft, back half of free agency. That's who they are as a front office. And they're pretty good at it. So I'm looking forward to what they do over the next few days and weeks and months, really. They can add more free agents even after the draft. So it's just getting started. It's cool.
Cool. Well, thanks for tuning in, everyone. This was a short notice show. So like I said on Twitter, turn on the bell icon. You'll get notifications for when we go live randomly and suddenly, like an emergency podcast that we did today. When are we planning on? When's our next show? When should we do a next show?
Next week, but I mean, we might do another emergency if something big happens between now and then. Yeah.
Another reason to turn on that bell icon. Seriously, subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/hawkblogger, patreon.com/hawkblogger. You get access to our Slack channel where you can bug Brian, Jeff, and Dana 24/7. You can even video call them in the middle of the night. All exclusive privileges you get for just $5 a month. Anything else? Any final last comments?
Those are not privileges you get. Just don't want
no one's calling me in the middle of the night.
I'll give you Evan's number though. I'm happy to do that.
Oh, fuck you. All right, folks. We appreciate you guys, and we'll see you